mode.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Google Forms, How to Create and Use Them Effectively, presented by Chrissy Romano, a William Patterson alumna who received her Master's in Education from William Patterson in 2004. My name is Sharon Ryan, and I work in the alumni office, and I'm happy to be here again. For those of you who attended Chrissy's other webinars, this one is going to be even more interactive. In fact, as it says, she's going to teach you how to create, collect data, and analyze data on Google Forms. So you'll be able to follow along with Chrissy on your own computer. So just you can be prepared to open up another tab or another window, and you'll be able to follow along, create your own forms. Also, make sure if you didn't already that you have a Gmail account so that you can follow along when she does her other. You'll see. So before I introduce Chrissy, I want to go over how the webinar will work. I know a lot of you have been at the other Google webinars, but to those who haven't, I'm just going to let you know. First, you should be able to see the presentation right now on your computer screen. You'll also be able to hear it through your audio system. Chrissy said before I was breaking up a little, so if I am, please let me know by typing in a question and I'll try to fix that. Then also, if you have questions, please feel free to type them in. We're going to monitor your questions and answer them either at the end or throughout the webinar if you have questions on making your forms. And don't be shy, so if you have a question, please ask. Any questions that are not answered, you will get a survey after this webinar, and you can ask the question there, type it in, and Chrissy will answer them then. And one more important note, professional development certificates will be emailed to all attendees after the webinar is completed. So I know many of you attended her last two webinars, but for those of you who didn't, I'm going to introduce Chrissy to you. Chrissy Romano is a veteran teacher with over 24 years of experience with students in elementary and middle school. She has spent the bulk of her career teaching in Hackensack, where she was born and raised. She graduated from Rutgers University with a double major in sociology and psychology and went on to complete the teacher certification program. She then earned a master's in counseling from William Patterson. Chrissy is dedicated to teaching the whole child as well as stimulating and supporting innovation in classrooms. She continues to be passionate about teaching and infusing technology to engage and motivate students. Chrissy is a Google for Education certified trainer and provides educational consulting and training to educators on the East Coast. She's a co-host of #CoffeeEDU, an informal monthly gathering of educators in Westwood, New Jersey. She's the co-director of NJASCD North and a lead organizer of EdCamp New Jersey and an overall EdCamp enthusiast. So now I'd like to introduce our presenter, Chrissy Romano.
Hi, everybody. I am back again to share with you how to create Google Forms and to use them effectively in your classroom. Before we get started, I just want to show you a quick little tip that's going to make it a little bit easier to navigate through tonight's webinar. So if you take a look at the top of your screen, you're going to see, I guess, the Go to Webinar tab. So first thing I'd like you to do on that tab is if you right click with your mouse or even on your touchpad, you should see this little menu come up. So I'm going to show you how to do that again. If you right click on your tab, you see this little menu. I'd like you to click on where it says Pin Tab. And what that's going to do, it's going to shoot your tab over to the left. You're going to see it's no longer this big rectangle tab at the top of your screen. It's going to be this little almost square tab on the left. That's a great little tip for not only yourself but your students, because what happens is if your device loses power and it shuts down and you restart it again, it's going to save that tab for you. So if you also notice on the other tabs I have open here, I have my Gmail and my GoToWebinar. You'll see these little X's. If I click on that X, it's going to close out that tab. So think about how many times you've been working on your device and then inadvertently or by mistake, you X'd out of a tab. And that's a real pain in the neck. And then you got to go back and search for whatever it is. So if you get in the habit when you log into your computers at school or at work in the morning, so if you use your Gmail, your online grading system, Google Classroom, Google Drive, whatever it is, A good practice is to right click again, click on Pin tab, and then it's going to save that for you. So some of you might be saying, well, how do I undo that? The very same thing. You, oops, hit the wrong one. You right click, unpin tab, and then it's unpinned, and then you have the ability to X out of it. So I'm going to ask everybody to do that right now with your go-to webinar tab, so you make sure that you don't lose it. Any questions so far, Sharon?
Somebody actually has a question that we haven't covered anything about forms yet, but so I don't know if you want to do that right yet.
Oh, it's about forms?
Yeah, how to score something. So.
Oh yeah, well, we'll get to that. That's something we'll get to later on.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay, so anybody have any questions about pinning the tab? Because that's going to be important today, because we're going to be toggling between two tabs. So I don't want anybody to get stuck inadvertently clicking out of one and then you can't get back to us. Are we good, Sharon?
I don't see anything. Oh, someone's attending the webinar on their phone.
Oh yeah, it's not going to work on your phone.
But they can still see all the slides and everything like that, and we will provide.
Yeah, but they're not going to be able to.
Yeah.
It won't be interactive for them.
It will be interactive, but you'll be able to see everything, and also we'll give you the presentation afterwards, and it will also be on our YouTube channel. So, okay. Yeah. And
okay, second thing, before we get started, if everybody can see on the screen here, I have a tiny URL, tinyurl.com/bootcampforms. This will give you access right now if you actually want access to the set of slides. If not, Sharon will be sending this to you in a follow-up email. Okay, so that being said, first thing we're going to talk about is how to effectively use forms in the classroom. And we're going to go through this really, really quickly, because the real heart of what we're going to do today is how to actually create forms and then look at what happens when you collect data, and then how to analyze the data. So what I did for you is I created this presentation. It's going to load in a second. And each slide is going to give you a template to walk away with, a ready-made form. So let me explain the first one. This is a back-to-school night survey that you can have ready for parents on any kind of a device. And they simply answer the question, and it gives you real-time information about whatever it is that you're asking. So in this particular case, I was teaching middle school at the time, getting students from 4 elementary schools. So I wanted to have a feel for what the parents were experiencing having their kids enter middle school for the first time. So I asked a very simple question: how do you feel about having your child enter middle school? And then there are different responses for them. So it kind of gave me a feel for who was in the room. Are these people anxious and nervous about having their kid in middle school, or is this like their third child and this will be the third time around? So it gives you some real-time data and kind of keeps your finger on the pulse of what's happening with the people in front of you in an instant. So one of the other neat things I did for you, on the bottom of each one of these slides, you're going to see a link here. It says make a copy of this Google form. So what I'm going to do right now is click on it and show you what's going to happen on your end. It's going to provide a forced copy for you. So it's going to say, would you like to make a copy of the back to school night survey? You're going to click make a copy. And there it is. And this is what it looks like on the back end. This is not necessarily what the parents and the kids see. And you'll see once we get in there and start working with forms and creating them, this is what it looks like on your end, which we call the back end, which is where you go in and you do all of your edits and all your creating and making them look pretty and so on. The front end is what people actually see when you give them the form. So let's just go back here to, all right, so these are some of the ones that I have for you here. A back to school night survey. This one is a book review. And again, once you create that copy, you can go in and edit that form in any way that you want. It will have no effect on me or anybody else or the original template. It literally is just a starting point for you. And again, there's the link on the bottom that says make a copy of this Google form. So this is a book review. So if you want your kids to, if your kids are reading in class, or this is something they can do in school, at home, reviewing books that they're reading. This is if you have kids coming in for lunch help, recess sign up. This could also be adjusted for after school extra help. Student information survey. This is really great to give out to kids at in the first few days of school to get some basic information about them. The goal is really to teach the whole child, not just, focusing on the academics. And sometimes we need to know what's going on at home or in other aspects of a child's life to really best meet their needs. So by the way, what you see here is just a screenshot, but when you click on the form, you'll get the entire form. So this doesn't have just 3 questions on it. I mean, this one goes on and on and on. I think there's like 20 questions on here. Here's a learning profile questionnaire. This is a great way to see what's their favorite subject, what's their least favorite subject. How do they study? Do they study? Do they know how to study? I mean, lots of different questions here to give you a feel for who's really sitting in front of you in the classroom. This is one that I really like when I was at middle school. It's great for middle and high school kids. It's a social media survey. It gives you an idea, like, what are they doing? Where, how are you connecting with them? Are these kids on social media or not? And if they are, what platforms are they using? And it may be, this might be a great way for you to meet your kids where they are. Because if you're teaching kids above 13 and they're on Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, the big one right now is Snapchat. I think the statistic is like astounding. And I think it's the most used social media platform right now for kids between the ages of like 13 and 25. It's believe it or not, it's Snapchat. So again, there's questions here about social media use. This is a great one. It could be used at any grade level, any subject area, choosing topics and partners for projects. And I'm only going through these really quickly because these are just templates for you. I just want to show you what's here, and you'll be able to make a copy, go in and edit them to meet your needs.
Chrissy?
Yes.
Karen, they're not going to be able to click on the make a copy right now, though, right? They'll be able to.
Unless they clicked on that tiny URL that I gave them at the beginning.
Yeah, so if you're seeing the presentation right now and you go to click on make a copy, you won't be able to do anything. We just had a few questions, but if you do the tiny URL and paste it into another browser, that's when you'll be able to click on those and go to the forms.
Yeah, that'll actually give you live access in the moment. Otherwise, you're just seeing, I guess it's a view only of the webinar.
Right.
Okay, so this one here, the assignment answer sheet, I love because it literally looks like a piece of paper, and it can be used for absolutely anything. Parent guardian requesting conference forms. So this is great to send out to parents if they want to meet with you. It alleviates, having to deal with, lots of emails and things like that. It kind of curates everything into, or collects all of it into one spreadsheet. This one is contact information. Here's another biggie that you should be giving out at the beginning of the year. And, most of us tend to do this on paper. But the thing about that is you may leave that binder at home. At school. If you collect everything on paper and you do your phone calls from home, not everybody does that, but sometimes you do. You bring that binder home and then you leave it there and you need to call, a parent from school the next day. You don't have it, or vice versa. So once you do things electronically, everything's collected into a spreadsheet, which can be accessed in your drive from any device, anywhere, literally around the world, as long as you have internet access. Peer review is another favorite of mine. When kids are working in groups, holds them accountable. How do they show up in the group? How did they view the other members of the group? How did they view themselves? Like, were they really working collaboratively as a team? Or was there, somebody who was the slacker and somebody who was the workhorse, which we all know, even from ourselves, when you've ever had to work in a group, whether you were an undergraduate in high school, middle school, even in graduate school, I experienced that. Those dynamics really don't change because people are people. This one's another great one that can be used across the board. It's a version of the KWL chart, which has been around literally forever, but this one includes misconceptions. And I like to add the M in there because sometimes there are things that kids think they know, and then once they actually start learning, they realize, I thought I knew that, but I really didn't, and that was a misconception. So that's like a really important thing to teach kids, that sometimes what you know changes and grows with what you learn. Exit tickets, anybody that was in the last 2 webinars, I'm always talking about exit tickets. They're a really great, quick and easy way to get a feel for, did your kids understand what you taught either that day or over the course of 2 days, or a mini lesson or a mini unit. So what I did for you guys here is, here's exit ticket number 1. Here's a version. And this one basically says, in your own words, what was the big idea of today's lesson? So you just want them to kind of fill the box there. The second one asks a few more questions, and the third one, different questions even yet. So there are 3 different versions for you. Again, once you click on this make a copy, it's going to give those to you. And I don't recommend using the same exit tickets over and over and over again. You're going to get bored with them. Kids get bored with them. So, mix it up a little bit, which is why I gave you 3 different versions. And we're kind of coming to the end here of the templates, and then we're really going to dig into how to make forms. But this is a book log. So if you have kids reading and you want them to keep track of what they're reading, title of the book, the genre, when did they finish it, did they enjoy it? Do you want them to rate it? You can even take the book log and add the book review and kind of put it all together. It's entirely up to you. There's lots of options here. Website evaluations. So once kids hit middle school, not to say you don't cover it in elementary school, because part of digital citizenship really should be evaluating where you're getting your information from. But if you're not hitting that in elementary school, absolutely, once they hit middle school, kids should be able to tell, are the sites that they are getting their information from true and accurate? We all know fake news, right? That's a phrase, that's a buzzword these days. Obviously you would have to teach a lesson on how to evaluate a website. And this form basically requires them to paste the URL into the form. Who's the audience? Is it easy to navigate? Is the site believable? Was the site helpful? And so on. And of course, you could always modify your questions on here. And this is the last one we're going to talk about right now, story starters. So if you want your kids to be writing creatively, you can add images to your Google Forms, and I'll show you how to do that later. Add a little box, and it's a great way for kids to, this is a good do now when they walk into, especially an English classroom, or even during homeroom, depending on what your setup is in school, where you want your kids just, doing either journal writing or narrative writing or anything along those lines. The next few slides are going to talk about add-ons that are really, really important. We'll actually talk more about them later, but I just want to introduce them to you now. The first one is Flubaroo. So anybody that asked a question before about how to grade things in forms, there's actually 2 ways to do it. There's one that's actually built into Forms, which is relatively new. I think it's only been around for about 6 or 9 months. But the go-to is what we call Flubaroo. And once you access this set of slides, you're going to see that, and you could read here what Flubaroo does for you. If you click on this link here, it's going to take you actually out to the site, so you can access Flubaroo and add it to your sheets, so you're able to grade things. And then down here, I gave you a website that actually walks you through step-by-step instructions. So Flubaroo is one of those things that you cannot live without. But we'll talk more about that when we actually get to, after we actually create a form.
Chrissy, can I
Yes.
interrupt for 2 seconds? Just a
Sure.
a few people didn't get the tiny URL.
I'll go back to it.
Okay. A few people came a little later, didn't get to do the thing where you showed how to make their.
We'll go back to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I do have one question, if I can ask, about when the students put in their answers. And I know you're probably going to cover this in a minute, but where do you receive the results of their answers? And that's going to be
in a sheet, and I'll walk you through that. Because what I did was I created a form. I actually put a sample form. I put it out on social media and asked my PLN just to respond to it. So we actually had some real-time data to work with.
Okay, great.
So you'll be able to see that.
Thank you.
And the last thing, is that it, Sharon?
Yeah, those were the 3 things. Yeah.
Okay. And the last thing I want to talk about is something called Form Limiter, which is really, really cool. Even though within Forms you can turn on a form and you can shut it off manually, what Form Limiter does, and if you click up here, this is a live link, it'll take you to Form Limiter. So again, you can access it and add it to your Google form. What allows you to do is you can set a specific date and time, or you can set a specific number of responses. So if you think about the form that we talked about before, like after school or lunchtime extra help, if you only want 5 kids up in the room at a time, it's first come, first serve. You can set, using form limiter, you can set that. And then once the 5 have signed up, nobody else can sign up for those, to come. So, and the other, you could also do the same thing with date and time. So you could say, if you want to, I don't know, join the chess club, you have until Friday at 12 to sign up. Anything beyond that, you're not going to have access to it. And you can literally set the specific date and time, and then the form will shut off without you having to manually go in and do it. Any questions so far before I go back?
I think that's it. The person who did ask about how to score opening was about how do you score open-ended responses in Google Forms, but I think.
Okay, so that's a really quick and easy thing. You can't. Flubaroo is really for, multiple choice checklists, things that are more objectively scored. Anything that lends itself to interpretation or anything subjective in any way, I would not use Google Forms for. It might be a way of collecting data, but not a way of actually scoring.
Okay.
So if you're using it for formative assessment, you're not grading, you're not scoring and grading formative assessment. You're just reading through to see, did the kids get it? Did they not get it? Do I need to go back and review? Can I move on? There's no scoring really going on there. So if you're using this for like straight up testing purposes and you want to score and grade, my recommendation is true and false, multiple choice checklists, things that are right or wrong, straight up objective. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so going back to the beginning, those of you that missed the tiny URL, here it is. You don't actually need it right in the moment because we're done with it. So you may just want to, if you have a cell phone handy, a smartphone, take a picture of it. But also Sharon will send it in the follow-up email.
Absolutely.
The other thing we talked about at the beginning is you see your tabs at the very top of your screen. If you right click or use two fingers on a touchpad and you click on Pin Tab, it's going to take your very long tab here and it's going to make it short. And the idea, and how do you undo it? You just do the same thing, double right click and click Unpin Tab. The reasoning behind it, you cannot X out of these pinned tabs. So it quite often happens to me when I'm working at home, my cat will walk across my keyboard and I can't tell you how many times when I don't have things pinned, it'll just X out of things by accident. Or if you have lots and lots of tabs open and when you're busy working and you're in the groove, that happens. You don't want to inadvertently X out of a tab. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, did
Yep.
I cover everything?
I believe so, thank you.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to do now is we are going to dig into how to actually create Google Forms. So what I need everybody to do is to go to their Gmail account. So you're going to open up a new tab on your screen. I'm actually going to close, open up a new tab. You're going to go to gmail.com. And we did say before that you needed to open up a Gmail account. If you don't have one, it's going to create, a little bit of a problem for you. So once you have your Gmail open, I'm actually going to go to mine. This is not mine. Here we go. I like to use this as the starting point. I even teach my kids to do that when they come into the classroom. The very first thing that they should do is go to their Gmail to see if there's any notifications from Google Classroom, any notifications from you, things along those lines, anything school related. And obviously, they're opening up their school account. They're not opening up, a personal account. So I like to use this kind of as the home base in the morning when kids come in. So over here on the right side of your screen, you're going to see something that people call either the Rubik's Cube. It's a set of 3 rows of dots. It's also known as the waffle in upstate New York, way upstate New York. They like to call it the waffle. But we also know it as the Google Apps Launcher. That's really the proper name for it. So I'd like everybody to click on the Google Apps Launcher. So if you're still in the GoToWebinar, you may want to toggle back and forth between what I'm showing you and then what I actually want you to do. So I'm going to go slow, and we are going to go through this step by step because we're going to use an I do, you do kind of style of teaching here. So you guys actually get in and you're able to create the forms. So we're going to click on that apps launcher, and you're going to click on the icon that says Drive. That's the green, yellow, and blue triangle. And it should be somewhere on the top right in the Google Apps Launcher. And once you do that, it's going to actually take you to your Drive. And if I lose you at any point, please let Sharon know.
Yeah, I am monitoring the questions.
Okay. So once you are in your Drive, I'm going to ask you to pin that tab so you don't lose it, because we will be coming back to it again. So we're going to right click, pin tab, and you may even pin your Gmail so you don't lose that either. Okay, everybody good so far?
It looks like it. I don't have any questions coming in.
Okay, so there's a blue tab on the left of your screen. This is really where everything kind of starts when you're creating anything. You're going to click on that little blue rectangle, and you're going to notice you're not going to see Google Forms, which is crazy. And you know, myself and other trainers have told Google many times, teachers use forms more than they use anything else, so they really should move it to the top of the menu, but they haven't done that yet. So if you click on More and you slide over, and I'm going to hover here for a minute so you guys can find it, click on Google Forms. So we went to the blue tab, down to the More, over to the Google Forms. If you're not with me, let Sharon know. Otherwise, we're going to move on. Are we good, Sharon?
We're good.
All right, so we're going to click on Google Forms. And here we go. This is your starting point.
Oh, someone's not with us.
What was that?
Someone is having a problem with their.
What's the problem?
They just said not with you.
All right, so I'm going to go back. We're going to go back to Drive. We're going to click on the blue New button. Then we're going to scroll down to More. Scroll over to Forms, Google Forms. It's purple. And it's going to open up a new form. Keep in mind, step by step, what we're doing is all being recorded. So even if I go through it now and you guys can't keep up, you can go back and watch this video over and over and over again, which is the beauty of the webinar, because you can watch it, stop it, do it, watch it, stop it, do it.
Yeah, it'll be on our YouTube channel tomorrow, or tonight. So.
Okay. All right, so here we go. First thing, I always
got it. Just
got it?
You know.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
First thing I always recommend is to give your form a name. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a form together. So whatever I do, I want you guys to do. And then you can all, go off and do your own. But at least if we're doing the same thing, we're all on the same page, and it'll make a little more sense to you. So we're going to do one called Favorite Snacks. So I'd like everybody to type in favorite snacks. And once you do that, you're going to notice on the top left of your screen, it's also going to say Untitled Form, top left. If you click on that, it's going to now just jump right over and title your form, so you don't have to type it twice. You can even add right underneath that a little form description. So I'm just going to type here, please tell me a little bit about the snacks you enjoy. So that's optional if you want to put a description in there or not. So now we're going to go down to our first question. Typically, keep in mind, if this is something where you want to know who is answering the question, your very first question should always be first name, last name. If it's anonymous and you're just trying to collect data, then you don't put first name, last name. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. And that's usually the best practices. You should always start with that. So we're going to simply type in here, first name, last name. And I don't know if you noticed that, it automatically goes to a short answer type. So it was able to understand what you were doing here. So let's just say you didn't want it to be a short answer. You click on the button here and you have all of these choices for different types of questions. But obviously first name, last name is going to be a short answer. This is a little feature here that I absolutely love. It's the required tab. If you click on that, it activates it, which means if whoever is answering the survey or answering the questions, if they don't answer a question, they cannot submit a form. So that's really great when you're working with kids, especially, I mean, anybody really, but especially kids. Sometimes they may skip around and do the questions that are easier first, but they go to click submit and then you don't want them to actually miss out on things. So if you click the required button, which is right here, then they're not going to miss anything because it won't allow them to submit the form. Okay, so that's how simple it is, really, to just create questions. So the next thing we're going to do is here on the right, we have this little menu, and we are going to add a question by clicking the plus sign. We're going to put number 1, and we're going to ask our first question. What type of snack is your favorite? And I'm going to make this a multiple choice one. So if you click here, click on multiple choice. And my first option is going to be a sweet snack. And then I'm going to click enter. And it's going to give us another option, salty snack. I'm going to click enter again, which will jump down. A savory snack. And before I click enter again, I want to show you here this little icon that says add an image. So let's just say you're dealing with very young children that they may not know how to read yet, or they're just, or they're emerging or beginning readers, or you're dealing with ESL students, or if you're a world language teacher. Natalie, I know you're out there, right? My French teacher friend. If you are teaching a foreign language and you want to add images to help the kids, this is how you do it. You simply click on, I'm going to go up to the sweet one right here. You click on the image. It'll take you out to a search page. I'm going to click on search, which will take us out to Google. And the first sort of a sweet snack that comes to mind for me is a Hershey's Kiss. Right, there's a Hershey's Kisses. So I'm going to click on that picture, click on select, and then there's the image. Right, and again, those are options. You don't necessarily have to do that.
Chrissy?
So we have our sweet type of snack, we have our salty snack, we have our savory snack. I'm going to hit return, and the last one.
I'm sorry, this is Sharon. Can you review how you got to add the questions? Because someone just missed what you clicked on. I think
add a question or an image?
Add the questions.
There's a plus sign right up here on the top.
Okay.
The menu right here. And it says add a question.
Got it. Okay, good.
And then there's also this feature here to add other. So, I mean, think about any time you've answered questions and maybe the 4 options don't apply, and you want somebody to be able to write in their own snack, you would click on other, and it gives them the ability to do that. So again, we're going to scroll down, we're going to click on required, and we're going to make sure that people actually answer the question. So any questions about that? Because that really is like the simplest type of question used on a Google form, most people use multiple choice as the option.
Okay, it seems good. That was just that one question about how to add a question, but
Okay.
it's just
So
clicking.
this little icon here, the trash can. So let's just say you put the question in and you realize, yeah, I don't like that question. You click delete, it'll get rid of it for you. This little option here is the duplicate, to duplicate your actual question. So let's just say the next one isn't what type of snack is your favorite. Maybe the next question is what type of hobby is your favorite. You would click on it. So we're going to actually do that right now. Let's click on duplicate, and it duplicates the whole thing. Now you can go in and you can take out snack. You can type in hobby, and then you can X out of, all of these choices. So you see the little X there, and you could put in your own kind, whatever it would be. So what type, and then we're going to make this question number 2. What type of hobby is your favorite? Sports, reading. Sharon, give me another one. Travel, and then add other, whatever it may be.
Chrissy, I have another question. Just to
Sure.
review, someone wants you to review just how you add the image.
Oh, image is super easy. When you hover over whatever you put in, see this little icon right here? You click on that. And then you click search. And we did sports. Click on an image, hit select, and then boom, it'll load it right in. Sports, just like that.
Got it. Great.
You also have the option here on the side. Here's one thing I am going to say, because I'm going to be honest with you. When I do Google Forms as a trainer and I go into school districts, usually I have 3 hours to do it. So to kind of condense everything into an hour is really tough. So it may be something that Sharon and we can talk about at the end if you guys want me to come back and do Google Forms part 2. Okay. That may be an option as well, because I don't think we're going to get through everything today. Because if I do it too quickly, you're not going to get it. I'd rather go slow and you get the basics, and then we come back another time and go into, more detail.
A couple of questions are coming in and they're all saying yes, part 2.
Okay. So the other thing is, I recommend all the time, even to my students, don't be afraid to click on things. So, you see here, there's a little menu. Click on it and see what it does. The plus sign is going to add a question. The 2 T's is going to give you the ability to add another title and a description, like we did up here at the very, very top. We had, favorite snacks and whatever. That's the title. That's the description. This is going to, the little add an image. You can add an image, at any point in time. You could also add a video, right? And you simply click on the video. Let's see, we're just going to put in sports. Right? And right now we're just going to click anything because we're just doing it for demonstration purposes. Most savage moments in sports history. So we're going to click on that one. By the way, when you do it this way, the parental controls and I'm trying to think, I can't remember what it's called right now, but the Google search options are very limited to what's appropriate, as opposed to if you just went out to Google and searched that way. Where anything, that could possibly come up will come up. This is more restricted to things that are considered appropriate or not appropriate. So I always like to tell people when they're doing things for school, do it this way, insert things this way. So you click select, and now here's an actual video. So when the kids see the video, they're able to click on it, and the video is actually going to play. So that's a really neat feature as well. And then down here you have add a section, which is something we'll do in Forms 2, because that can get very complicated. So we're going to delete this video right here, and we have our 2 questions. So let's just say you didn't want to do multiple choice. You could click on this and you could do check boxes, so people can choose more than one answer. You can also do a linear scale, which gives you like 1 to 5 options here, and then you would label, 1 is your least favorite, 5 is your most favorite, or whatever you want to do. And here's a drop down box. So they would have an option here, and then they would literally drop down to choose their answers, and then there's short answer, paragraph. So this is something that I recommend when you leave us tonight, go home and play around with forms a little bit. So then if we end up doing forms part 2, you'll have the basics down, and then we can go into some of the more detailed things. So any questions so far with this menu here and how to actually add basic questions?
One basic thing, this person's form still says untitled. How did you add the title? If you could just show that again.
Oh, sure. So up here at the top where yours probably says untitled, we typed in favorite snacks. And then once you type it in here and you click up here on the left, it also says untitled. It's going to copy that. So hopefully that answered your question.
Okay, and then I don't know if you've ever run into this, but another person is just having something. She keeps getting a pop-up that says something went wrong and to reload. Have you ever had that issue with Google Forms? I think it might be.
Yeah, it's a glitch. Sometimes it happens. What I would do is completely X out of the form you're working in, go back to your drive, hit that blue button again, and create a brand new one.
So it sometimes happens with the Google Forms.
Yeah, the other thing is you need to be in Chrome browser. Anytime you're doing anything Google, you have to be in Chrome browser. So forget about Safari, forget about Internet Explorer, or there's another one too, Mozilla. Like, don't use any of those. Anything Google, really, to get full functionality, you have to be in Chrome browser. So I don't know if that's the issue.
Good to know. Okay. Okay, that's it. Continue. Thanks.
Okay. So, all right. So let's take a look at the toolbar at the top. So first here you see this little puzzle piece. This is what we will do when we do forms part 2, or if we have time at the very end here, because we didn't even go through and get some data yet. So we're not going to use the add-ons. But those are the things like Flubaroo and Form Limiter or any other add-ons that add functionality to your Google form. This is where you would actually do that. But here's what people, and even kids, when you give, sometimes I like to give kids the option. I want you to create the assessment for this mini lesson or this set of lessons. And, you guys get together, you create the assessment, and then, each other's group is going to take it. So I always teach my kids at the very beginning of the school year how to create a Google form. And this is what they love the most. It's the color palette. So it looks literally like an artist's palette. If you don't mind clicking on that, please. So the default is always purple. I don't know why, but it is. But you can click on any color, and then it's going to change your background color, which is super simple. Okay, but here's the fun part. The bottom right has this little image here, and when you click on that, it's going to give you lots and lots of options. So the form that I created and sent out to my PLN on social media to answer was about favorite snacks. So what I did was I clicked on food and dining. And because we were talking about, and I scrolled down, and because we were talking about snacks, watch this, you're going to be amazed. I clicked on the popcorn, and then I clicked select. And I want you guys to watch. Do you see the popcorn popping?
Oh, yeah.
You see that?
Yes, you do.
Cool. Kids love that. I mean, people love that. It's just neat. So the popcorn is actually popping. So I want you guys to just take a minute, click on the image here, take a look around. There's birthday, work, and school. There's a lot of different things you can do here. If you're in a science classroom.
Oh, that's cool.
If you're in, a elementary classroom where you're an art teacher. If you teach health and phys ed, here's like, the soccer field. Piano, if you're a music teacher, that's actually a new one. A bunch of science ones here. These are some of my favorites that I use the books. I was a middle level English teacher for 15 years, so I used to use this one a lot, and so on. And you'll see there's lots of them. Things for parties, just kids. You could use these for, people are using Google Forms for everything these days, not just for education, travel, and then there's just some, cool designs. So lots and lots of options there. So the next thing we're going to do is talk about this little eye that you see here. And that icon means a preview, because remember I mentioned at the very beginning, what you see here is what we call the back end. This is what you as the teacher, you as the creator of the form sees. But if you click on this little eye, it's going to open up a new tab and it's going to show you what your kids, your parents, or whoever it is that's filling out the form, it's going to show you what they see. So we're going to click on that right now.
Chrissy, while
Yeah.
this is loading, can I ask you, a couple of people are asking why the puzzle piece isn't on their form. You think that might be just a glitch, or?
Because they didn't add any add-ons yet. That's probably why. I already have.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, they just didn't do it yet, but they will. We just didn't do it yet.
Got it. Thank you.
Mine's preloaded because I've done it so many times. That's why.
Okay.
So you can see here, it looks slightly different. So I'm going to toggle back. If you look again, this is what it looks like on the back end. You know, it's got the, you know, your little drive folder here. By the way, if you click the little star, it makes it a template and it makes it easier to find in your drive later on. It also gives the option, it shows you this is where the questions are, but then it also has what the responses are going to look like, which we don't have yet and we didn't get to yet. It gives you the ability to send, and it gives you your whole toolbar here. So this is the back end. And again, this is the front end. Okay, we're going to go back to the back end again. So we did the puzzle piece we'll talk about another time. We did the color palette. We did the preview. And now we have settings. So this is super, super important. We're going to click on settings. And there are 3 settings that you guys need to know. Here's the general one, and then that's the default. It opens up to it. So here's something really key. If you want to curate a list of email addresses, when you're collecting their names and so on, you click this button and it's going to collect the email addresses for you. So now when all of your data is dumped into a spreadsheet, you are now going to also have the email addresses from all of the people that responded. Now, if you're going to use Flubaroo down the road and you want to email the responses back to your kids, you have to use collect email address. But also keep in mind, if you're telling your participants what they're responding to is anonymous, do not click this button, because if you collect their email addresses, then it's no longer anonymous. If you want people to get a receipt when they respond, you click on that button, right? And there's options here if they want one or always. If you only want your participant to answer one time, so that's sometimes think about different situations where you may only want them to answer once, you would limit to 1 response. If you want to give them the ability to edit after they submit, think about how many times you filled out a form and then 30 seconds after you click that button, you're like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot, I should have said this. Or, oops, I want to change my answer. Well, now you can. And then if they want to see a summary of the information after it's submitted, they would click on that button. Any questions with that so far?
Nope. Everything seems good.
Okay, so that's easy enough. And I'm going to unclick all those things. Now, next one you have here, your next tab is presentation. So this, if you're asking lots and lots of questions, in my opinion, anything more than 10 is considered a lot. I would click this button that's show progress bar. So think about times that you filled out a survey and on the bottom it'll say 10% done, 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%. That's a progress bar. If you want to shuffle the question order, so if you're going to do that, don't number them. And this is an easy way to avoid cheating. So if you have a bunch of kids sitting with devices and you shuffle the question order, they're not all going to be on the same question at the same time. And then if you want them to be able to answer whatever it is you're asking more than one time, they could submit another response. Any questions about that?
Nothing coming in. These are great though. And you can use for other anyone can use these for forms, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, this is open to you as like a person outside of education, like a real person in the real world. Yeah. Or you could use it obviously, as a teacher, as an educator, an administrator, a coach, if you are, what's the word, like facilitating a club or moderating clubs, like things along those lines. It could be used for anything. And the last thing here, the default message. So think about how many times you filled out a form and then it pops up and it says your response has been recorded. Like for me, that's kind of impersonal. What I like to do, especially in the classroom, is I'll change that message and I will say something like, now that you have completed, X, Y, and Z, your next step is to 1, 2, 3, like whatever it is. So if you don't want your kids to come up to you and say, well, Miss Romano, I'm done. What do I do now? Tell them to look for that message, and the message is going to tell them what to do. So think about if you have 20 kids in a class, they're taking some sort of an assessment, they're doing an exit ticket, they're doing a do now, but you want them to, as soon as they're done, move on to something else. Tell them right here in this confirmation message. When you are finished, pull out your independent reading book, and read until, the teacher starts the class. Or when you are done, copy down your homework. Or when you are finished, go to Ed Puzzle and complete such and such a lesson. So it's a great way, create independence with your kids. Sharon, take any questions. I got to go run and get my plug. I'm so sorry, but these Macs, I feel like it eats power like super fast. 2 seconds.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to let some of you know who don't have the puzzle icon. Somebody just said that on theirs, it's under the 3 little dots on the top right. So you may have your puzzle icon there, but you probably maybe not have used it yet, just to let you know. Anyone have any other questions? Let us know here.
Yep, coming back.
That's okay. I just told them where the puzzle icon may be if they haven't used it yet. It's on the top right.
I typically use Chromebooks, so I apologize, everybody, and Chromebooks last forever. MacBooks definitely do not. Okay, so here we go. So we did general, we did presentation, and then the last one is quizzes. So if you are asking questions and you want to actually score them, or maybe not even score them in the sense that you're going to use it in a grade book, but you want kids to know, did they get it right or did they get it wrong, like immediately, Forms created this quick, easy way to do it. I'm not a fan of it, to be quite honest with you, and I don't like to use it when I'm actually grading something, but I do like to use it if I'm giving my kids questions for a review, because then they're able to see really quickly, did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? So all you simply do is click make a quiz, that little button right there on the top, and then it'll release the grade either immediately after each submission. So if you're doing checkboxes, multiple choice, things that are very objective, I would say click this. But if you have a bunch of objective questions and then you have like one essay at the end, you're going to have to click later, because that means you're going to have to go in manually and assess their work. So I'm all about working smarter and not harder. So I try to leave those sorts of things for another type of assessment, and I don't like to put those in a Google form. This is just when I really want, quick and easy data, either to grade, for a grade book or, formatively. And then here it depends on what you're clicking. If you want them to see their missed questions, correct answers, and point values. So you would have to set this to make it a quiz. And then you're going to hit save. And I'm going to do that in a minute. And then we're going to go back to the form and you're going to see it's slightly different, because now you're going to have to create an answer key. So are we good so far before I click save?
Just one question. This person's students are not allowed email addresses, so how can she utilize Blueberoo or other grading options or send feedback?
They can't. You can't. You're not going to be able to use Blueberoo. Actually, no, that's not true. They're able to see it in their drive. So like I taught 3rd grade this year, so I did not use the option for sending it to their email address, because to be honest with you, with 8 and 9-year-olds, it was just too difficult for them. So what I did was I would just click the option in Blueberoo to send it right to their drive, and it would send them a copy, and they would just go to their drive and they would see it there.
Oh.
But that's going to be something we're going to have to do in forms too, because we only have 6 minutes left.
A lot of information.
So yeah, it is a lot of information. So we're going to click save, and we're going to go back here, and now you're going to see, if you look back at your questions, now it's going to give you the answer key, which if you notice here, it's in bright blue. It was not here before. So if you click on answer key, it's going to give you points. So let's just say we're going to make this one 5 points. And we're going to click on, it says choose the correct answer. I mean, obviously this is not, there's no right or wrong, but just for demonstration purposes, we're going to click sweep. Now you just created your answer key for that one. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And then we're going to go to, let's go down to your favorite hobby. Let me add some questions here. Let me do it. We're going to do it as a drop down, and I'm going to add, let's see, sports, reading, and travel. So again, we're going to create that answer key. We're going to click on the button. We're going to say that reading is the right answer, and we're going to make this one 5 points. Okay, now remember before when we talked about preview? So what we're going to do now is we're going to click that preview button, that I, and this is what your kids are going to see, or whoever it is that's receiving the form. Email address, because remember we collected that before. We clicked that button. First name, last name. Here is the drop-down box. And then here are the multiple choice options. And we didn't finish adding the images in there. Okay? So you could see the difference now. This is what the kids see on their end. This is what we see on our end. Now, really quickly, and I know we're running out of time, I just want to show you the easiest, there's 2 super easy ways to get your form in the hands of whoever it is you want to answer. The first one is through Google Classroom. And we're actually going to be doing Google Classroom, I think, in 2 weeks, right?
August 30th.
On the 30th. But maybe looking at the calendar, maybe we can schedule the 23rd for forms part 2 before we do.
Yeah, someone's asking about analyzing data. They want to skip to that, but I don't know how much time we have for that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to do that. I think we're going to run out of time with that. So let me just show you how to send a form.
Okay.
If you're in Google Classroom, you simply click on the button and it's going to let you add it in that way. Otherwise, you can click on the send button here, and you can email it to people. You can click on the link. You can grab the link and you can copy and paste it onto a website, into an email, anywhere you want it to be. You could put it on Google+, you could put it on Facebook, you can put it on Twitter. So if you're looking to collect data from other sources other than your students. So really quickly, how to analyze data, I will show you a form that I already did earlier today. And this is another favorite snacks. This is one that I sent out to my PLN. So this is what it looks like on the back end. And once it loads, you're going to see 93 people responded. When you click on responses, right, you will see very, very quickly a little, chart, a little pie chart. What type of snack do you like best? And it looks like people like salty the best. Their favorite time of day to snack looks like in the afternoon. And it looks like, as how often do they snack? So people are kind of in the middle about how often they snack during the day. You can also look at individual, which in this case, this was an anonymous survey, but if you did it for your students and you clicked on individual, it would give you each kid's response, but this case it's not going to. Actually, here it is over here. This is the first response, the second response, the third response, the fourth response. If you ask for their name is going to pop up as well. The other thing you see here is this little green icon. When you click on that, this is where all your data goes to a spreadsheet. And now it's in Google Sheets, which is the same as Excel, and you can manipulate this data any way that you want. One of the cool things here is if you do go to form, it's still loading right here. You can click on show summary of responses, and it's going to give you those pie charts again. And it's going to give you quick summary.
Oh, that's great.
Right here. Here's another button that's really important to have. This is saying that your form is open. If I wanted to close it, now I'm no longer accepting responses. And we talked about form limiter, which when we come back and do forms part 2, That's where you can automatically set it. This is something you have to do manually. So you literally have to go in here and click the button, whether it's open or closed. So it is 8 o'clock on the nose. Those are the basic things to get up and running with Google Forms. If you are interested in learning more and going into greater detail, we obviously don't have to go over those templates at the beginning, and we can use that time to just jump right into how to use Flubaroo, how to use Form Limiter, and then, you know, some advanced things to do with Google Forms. So you just have to let Sharon know if that's something you're interested in. And I can hang around for another 5 minutes or so if anybody has any questions about what we've covered so far today.
Okay, just right now we're getting some people saying thank you and forms too, please. So just to let you all know, if you want, when you close out of this, you're going to get a little survey again, if you're familiar, and it'll say any questions you can put there if you're interested in forms too, and we can do that. I know, okay, yeah, interested in part 2. Yes, more people. Yes. Okay. Everyone's just basically saying yes, forms too. So I think we're probably going to do a forms too. But and for the people who were asking about analyzing the data, it was just a quick little overview of it that Chrissy did, but it was really, I mean, right there. The little.
I mean, in the end, for analyzing data, when you go to that spreadsheet, you click on that green button. It depends on what you're looking for. I mean, it's in a spreadsheet. So the same way you would analyze data in any other spreadsheet, that's what you would do here. But I will show you next time actually how to add Flubaroo, how to grade something in Flubaroo. You know, that in and of itself can take 15 minutes. So, you know, there's just a lot that you can do. There's a lot of functionality.
Okay, so this is great. Everyone looks like they want a form too. Someone already created a survey that they're going to use. So just to answer the last housekeeping kind of questions, yes, you're going to have access to the other slides too. So you can click on them and see the forms that Chrissy already did and copy them, utilize them. We'll be sending that to you. We'll also put this webinar up on our YouTube channel so you can watch it again, stop it if you need to, you know, go through it like Chrissy said. And the last thing is you'll be getting your professional development certificate. So, and it looks like we will be doing part 2, Chrissy.
Yeah, I'm good with that. We could do it next Wednesday if you want. I'm available.
Okay, we'll check the date and probably next Wednesday. And that's it. So again, Chrissy, goodness, thank you very much again. And
You're
thank
welcome.
you all for attending. And we'll probably see you again next week. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye.